I got caught up in a good old-fashioned Stau last week, kids. But it's okay, because beyond that Stau awaited the war on drugs, and they put a magnificent cherry on top of a musical week for which I am most grateful. And I'll tell you all about it on the other side. Hello, you're listening to the John Huff Podcast. Oh, yay. Stau, S-T-A-U, is the Deutsch word for traffic jam. Now, if you are in Deutschland, you find yourself cruising around Germany, you can reasonably expect, if you are on das Autobahn system, you can reasonably expect to find yourself in the occasional Stau. Seems to be a pretty regular thing. You know, for a highway that is world famous for having no speed limits, interesting how often you're in a gridlock. I mean, it's easy to post, "We have no speed limit," if you're always in a gridlock and nobody can go more than 10 kilometers an hour anyway. Now, I've told you before about the Autobahn, right? The Autobahn is not a highway. The Autobahn is a system of highways, and there are sections of those highways where there is no speed limit. It is not an all the time, everywhere free-for-all, okay? You can't just get on the Autobahn or a highway on the Autobahn system and just gun your Volkswagen wherever you want. Doesn't work that way, okay? And here's the thing, kids. If you get it wrong, you're in trouble because you cannot speed and not get caught. They have speed cameras freaking everywhere. So even if you're just coming into the no longer free-for-all zone, dude, you better get yourself down to the speed limit or you will get a ticket, my friends. That's your friendly neighborhood word to the wise for all of you who plan to be over in Germany driving on the highways, okay? But you're likely going to be in a Stau. And you look up and you'll see the digital traffic signs, and it'll say Stau on it. And I got into one. I have not been, in Canada at least, in a really, like a good old-fashioned Stau. Used to be, especially in the summertime, you know that old joke, kids. There are 4 seasons in Canada. There's winter, more winter, still winter, and road construction, right? That's the old joke, but it's an old joke for a reason, because that's the way it kind of is. And you could reasonably expect, being on the 400 series highways in Ontario, to be in a gridlock at some point, especially around Toronto. But for me, past few years, that doesn't really seem to be a case. Like a full-on bumper to bumper, nobody's moving, everybody's getting out of their car and walking around Stau. Have you ever been in one of those? That used to be a regular feature of highway driving in this province, and for me, it hasn't really been that for a long time. But I got into one on Sunday evening, kids, like a real good old-fashioned Stau. And what happened was I was driving with my spouse or significant other down to Hamiltonia, where I planned to catch a GO train into T-Dot to see, at long last, the war on drugs live for the first freaking time. Now, this is the way you do it, okay? For those of you who are in Deutschland planning to come to Canada and drive on the 400 series highways, don't drive into Toronto if you don't have to, all right? If you're coming from surrounding environs, having trouble saying that word today. Having trouble saying a lot of words today, kids, because I'm on 2 back-to-back very late nights, and my voice is a bit ravaged from the War on Drugs gig, all right? Regardless, driving into Toronto sucks, all right? Driving in on any of the major highways sucks. I've heard it said, I don't have this corroborated at this moment, that the 401 into Toronto is the busiest highway in North America for sheer volume. I don't know if that's true or not. What is the big one in LA? The 404, the 104, the Shout 4 because the ball is coming. Whatever it is, the 401 sucks. I never take the 401, all right? If you're coming from L-Town into T-Dot, you go via Hamilton on the 403, okay? That's a little bit better. You get on the QEW into the Gardner downtown if you're driving into T-Dot. But the thing to do is if you don't have to drive in, don't. All right, get yourself on a GO train. And the GO trains run very reliably, very well, very comfortable, and they stretch out for like an hour and a half beyond the city now. Like you can pick up the GO train in Kitchener, you can pick it up outside of Hamilton, take a pleasure cruise in, all right? That was the game for us. Now, a lot of the time I still have to drive in because I'll be playing a gig downtown. And that means I got gear and I'm not taking my gear on the GO train. And that's a pain, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But if that's not the case, if you're just going to the CNE, which is where I was headed, Exhibition, Ontario Place, BMO Field, that's usually where we're going is BMO Field to watch TFC play. And they are worth watching again over the past few weeks. Thanks to an injection of Italian talent. We were heading towards the CNE, and so we're going to pick up the GO train in Burlington, all right? That's the way you do it, kids. That's the way you do it. All right? Cost you like $13. Get on the thing. It's an hour right in. Take you right down to Union Station if you want. Get out, go to Skydome, watch the Blue Jays. So we budgeted a lot of time, all right? We had nowhere to be. Show is at, like, doors are at 7, I want to say. Had nowhere to be, and the X is on. The X is the world's biggest fall fair, as far as I can tell. Happens on the CNE fairgrounds. Massive fall fair, and that creates two problems for you, all right? Chief among those for us, debating how we get to the gig, is that thousands of people are at the X, meaning a lot of them are filling up thousands of parking spots around the X. Tons of traffic. Do we want to deal with that? Do we want to fight for parking? We don't want to do any of that. Again, drop the car, get on the GO train, take a pleasure cruise, all right? Problem is, we're taking 403 into Hamiltonia, and all of a sudden, there's a sign that says, hey, we're closing the 403. What? That's a 3-lane highway, Jack, going right into T-Dot. You're closing the 403 on a Sunday afternoon? That's exactly what they did. We didn't know they were going to do that, but that's what they did. So we're driving in. We think we got nothing but time, right? We're going to catch X train into T-Dot. And we budgeted tons of time. We'll get there. We'll get to the X. We'll wander around that, see what that's about. Let's all go to the X, oh baby. Let's all go to the X. Remember that commercial? You remember that commercial. And so we're driving, and we are what should be like half an hour, 40 minutes from the station we want. And we checked our Google Maps to see how long it's going to take. How far out are we? And it's like hour and 50 minutes. What? Hour and 50 minutes? What are you talking about? We thought the GPS was wrong. My wife, on her phone, her Siri voice is that Australian guy, right? I don't trust that guy at all. So he pops up and says, it's going to be an hour and 50 to get to a station that we know is 20 minutes away or something like that. Doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. So we're driving along thinking that can't be right. Something's wrong with the GPS. The Australian guy is drunk again. Not a big deal. Not going to worry about it. And we're driving. And there's a couple construction zones. You can count on that. Like I said, that is the 4th driving season in this province. Then all of a sudden we got a little sign on the side that says, we're just driving by and it flashes by something about 403 closed. What? Is that right? And then there were dates on it and whatever. We couldn't catch it, man. We were driving. It's not exactly Das Autobahn, but we were driving, on a 400 series highway. Didn't catch it. A little while down the road, there's another one. And we're like, it said something about 403 closed. And then you go around a corner and it's just freaking tail lights. And then we look again at the GPS and he's saying the same thing, this Australian guy. I call him Chase after Chase on House. Remember House MD? Incidentally, my Siri is a very elegant and sophisticated sounding British woman called Natalie. Natalie never steers me wrong except for one time. I don't trust Chase at all, but turns out Chase is right because I'm seeing nothing but taillights. And then we're filtering into lanes closing, lanes closing, lanes closing. And then a Ferrari comes up beside us as though we were on Das Autobahn. And that's impressive. And he goes wailing past us. And then it's brake lights for him. And then we're all in brake lights and we realize, holy Hannah, they're closing this highway and rerouting us somewhere. Now, Ferrari driver, like one of those hot stuff, looks like a European sports, not one of the dignified Ferraris. You know, they're doing dignified Ferraris now. One of the real deal Ferraris, man. Like a new one. That kind of low, rectangular. You know what I'm talking about? Ferrari, a red one. Of course it's red, right? There's an off-ramp to somewhere into Hamiltonia. Ferrari goes off-road. Well, punches it, makes a sound that only a Ferrari makes, and skids away up into Hamiltonia somewhere. Like, Ferrari knows where he's going, can't follow him, too late. If I tried to go off-roading where I am, we're talking about a problem, man. And I got to get to the war on drugs. And then we realize this is what's happening. They have closed a 3-lane 400 series highway on a Sunday afternoon, and they're just rerouting us into the city. And then you're on your own, right? So what happened? I forget which exit it was, but there's one, and you know it if you've ever played in Hamilton. You're driving in, and it's all one way. It's like a 5-lane, one-way street into the city. Hamilton's roads need a little work too, by the way. All right? Bouncing around like a freaking pinball in there. And this enormous volume of 400 series traffic is just shuttled into the city, into this 5-lane road that you don't even know where it goes. And then I think there's one little detour sign that says, turn that way. And how many thousand cars are there trying to squeeze across 5 lanes to get into the maybe 2 turning lanes that are possible? Can't do it, man. And then somewhere around the corner, Chase tells us there's a car accident. So it's gridlock, man. And then we skip past it and we're just driving down the street. And he's like, turn right. I can't do an Australian accent. I really wish I could. Throw another shrimp on the barbie. I can't do it. Too bad, because it would be very useful right now. So we go, and it says, turn left. All right. So we do, and we go through some cobblestone, and we bounce around, and we're at a stop sign, and we go through here. There's like a meth head over there. And eventually find our way around to this road that's going to take us back way to the GO train station, right? And it's gridlock. It's all gridlock because they've shuttled 3 lanes of 400 series traffic into the city and then just left us there. You're on your own, kids. Good luck in Hamiltonia. Unbelievable, outrageous. And so I'm starting to get antsy. I'm getting antsy for 2 freaking reasons. A, are we going to get down to where we need to go in order to see the gig that I'm desperate to see? And B, even more pertinent than that, I gotta pee, man. I gotta go. And once you start thinking about it, you find yourself in trouble, man. And I was starting to think about it. All right, it was a slow build. It's gonna be a lot of slow builds in this episode. But I'm starting to feel it like, oh, this is a problem. And how long is this going to be? You know, Chase has been telling us it's 21 minutes for the last hour. And I don't know. Are we going to make it? And what's our contingency plan? It is gridlock traffic, all right? We're on like another 2-lane parkway. Traffic lights, people trying to merge in from other streets after they've been kicked off the 403. It's a chaos, man. It's a Stau. A real big city Stau. Had to be patient. Not great at that. Not great at that. You know, some things I can let slide a little bit. I can be chill. But inside, I'm ramping up because I got to go to the bathroom and I got to get to a show, man. So, long story short, we made it. All right, we made it. We got our tickets. We got on the train after I visited the public restroom. Great relief in many, many facets of the word. And we get on, and it's a pleasure cruise, man. It's a pleasure cruise on a Sunday afternoon from Burlington right on into the X. And you pull in, and you get off the train, and you walk up the little walkway, and chaos resumes. Not a gridlock of cars this time, a gridlock of folks, a people stau. You know what I mean? The X is popular, man. I'm not 100% sure why it's popular, but it's popular. And so it's bumper to bumper, folks. Just, if you've never been to the grounds, the soccer stadium is there, wonderful. Across the parking lot is what used to be Rico Coliseum, where in a couple weeks, I'll be seeing ghosts, everybody. And then in this parking lot, they just fill it with carnival games. And you know the ones. Has anybody ever seen anybody win the ring toss game? Anybody? I don't want secondhand accounts. I have an uncle who had a friend who. Do you have firsthand, direct, primary source knowledge of anybody winning the ring toss game? Because I've never seen it. You know the ring toss game. They got all the bottles, and they're in a grid in the middle of this, square kind of space. And you pay what used to be like $1 for 3 rings and is now like a mortgage payment for 3 rings. And the ring is red and it's plastic and it bounces like nobody's business, like something out of Men in Black, you know what I mean? And it's only barely bigger than the bottle opening that it's supposed to go over. And you toss the ring, and if you land it on one of the bottles, you win yourself a prize that you can't get home because it's too big. And then in a couple of years, you're like, why do we have this thing? Never seen anybody win the ring toss, but the ring toss is everywhere. And every other carnival game that you ever played as a kid at the fall fair for some vaguely sinister carny who was running the thing. The same carnies are still working the X, man. And they just travel from town to town, ripping you off on the ring toss. But there's hundreds of these games, and there's a building full of just food. Had some lovely quesadilla there. Took a while, but had some lovely quesadilla. Ring toss, ring toss, ring toss. People by the thousands, man. Packed out. And then over there's rides. They got the scrambler and they got the drop thing that I'll never go on ever. And that vortex thing, I think, that spins you around and gravity pins you to the wall. All the stuff you've seen before, and a big Ferris wheel and whatever. And they're lined up in the dozens to get on these rides and by the thousands to wander around the place. And you wade into that and you realize the pandemic is over, man. Whether COVID is gone or not, we've given up caring too much about it because it's thousands of people, a massive humanity, no masks, no worries, no problemo. And you know what? It was pretty great, really. Now, I'm not into the ring toss game. I do like me some food. I was not there for the X, but it was cool to just feel the energy, see the sights, be amongst people, and I can only take that kind of in small chunks anymore, but it was nice for a chunk, and so we wandered around the X for a little bit, and the gig, the War on Drugs gig, was at a venue called RBC Echo Beach, all right? So if you go to the exhibition grounds, Ontario Place, there is the Budweiser stage, which is the big amphitheater, and big bands play there, and it's a cool venue. I've seen a few shows, really great, and beside it, they've built a smaller, but still really cool outdoor venue kind of on the water. They call it Echo Beach, and it is a beach in the sense that there was a asphalt parking lot that they seem to have trucked in a bunch of sand and put it on top. So nice, all right. It's kind of like a beach. You're walking through sand, and everywhere you look, there's a drink trolley where they're charging upwards of $15 for a can of cider, and I don't like that. They rip you off because they can, and that's the problem. They just can. You go to the hockey game, and you now have to pay this premium on just being at the hockey game. So your can of beer is $20. Or in this case, your can of cider is $15. I know that this costs $3.29, all right? Why is it $15? Because it can be. But I want to keep this positive. I don't want to start wailing on this stuff, but it bothers me and it bothers a lot of people that they're just blatantly gouged everywhere because they can be. It's one of the things that makes, the people at Woodstock 99 start burning stuff. Stop ripping people off, you know what I mean? But of course, we paid. And that's the problem, Vote with your dollars, kids. We didn't. And that's how they get you. And judging by the amount of sheer refuse left behind at the end of this gig, lots of other people were willing to be ripped off too. And why do you think it's okay to just drink your can of whatever and then throw the can on the sand and walk away? We're living in a society here, kids. George Costanza told us that, Regardless, RBC Echo Beach is a really nice little venue. I think it holds is the wrong word. It's open air. It's all standing room. But I think they can fit, 3,000 or 4,000 people in this space. Really nice. And it was a perfect night. It was a perfect night, man. It was warm, but not too hot. And it didn't drop off and get so cold you couldn't breathe. And the stars were out. And you could see the skyline of Toronto over there and stuff at the CNE behind you. And just a really nice atmosphere. And we got there and we were among the first in line. And we walked right up. If we wanted, we could have leaned on the security fence. Didn't want to do that because it was a high stage. All right, I'm going to the War on Drugs. I want to see Charlie Hall. All right, you've heard me say many times, Charlie Hall is probably my favorite drummer these days and certainly the most influential on my playing. I was there to see Charlie, and if I got too close, I couldn't see him very well because the stage was too high. So we stayed back about 7 rows deep, which is still plenty close, by the way. And there was a lot of people there, but not so many that you were sardined. All right, there was lots of space for everyone, good atmosphere, people were happy, It was just a nice, perfect kind of evening, and the vibe reflected that. And people were there a little bit to dance, but a lot to hear the music. And that's my kind of show, man. I'm not interested in pits. Don't want to be in a pit. Want to watch the show. So a lot of times, if it gets, kind of cantankerous and rough up front, I don't want to be part of that. I want to watch the show. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder for some idiot's boot coming at my head because he's crowd surfing. You know what I mean? Not my jam, dude. Want to watch the show. And so does everybody at a War on Drugs gig. So the appointed time and hour comes. And they can't really drop the house lights unless you can turn off the sun. The sun is setting and the lights come up on stage and everybody starts to cheer because they told us 8:30 is when the show starts. So we're ready to go. No opener. I'm fine with that. And then the lights happen. That ripple goes through the crowd. You know that ripple, man, that anticipation. This is also going to be an episode of Anticipations. And then the band comes out, and I don't know, Adam Grandiseel is 30, 40 feet from me. We're up close, man. It's great. We found a place where my wife, 5'4.5", could see. 10 minutes before that, some dude came along, 6'2", 235, just planted himself right in front of her. And you want to take a can off the ground that somebody discarded and just smack it on the dude's head, except he wouldn't feel a thing. Eventually, he shuffled to the right, and all right, we can see again. The band comes out, and I've been waiting for this for a long time, all right? I have not been a War on Drugs fan since the beginning. I've been a War on Drugs fan since about 2018, but a big one. You know what I mean? Like, I got into this band, and then I stayed into this band. Then I got really into this band. This is an important band to me. This is an important drummer to me. And I've been waiting to see them for a long time. They've had at least one show in Toronto canceled that I had tickets for. Had to wait. And I'll tell you right now, worth the wait. They've been opening the shows on this tour with the song called Old Skin, all right? And it turns out to be a perfect opener, a perfect micro of the macro. Old Skin starts very gently. You know, the War on Drugs does moody art rock, does moody alternative rock, okay? And this song starts moody, you know, some very subtle chords on the guitar, but there's like a synth pad happening. There's 7 people on stage, 3 keyboard stations, drums, bass, and Adam playing guitar and singing. But at all of those synth stations, maybe there are 4 synth stations. There are 4 keyboard stations on stage. But 3 of the 4 are also playing other instruments throughout the show. Guitar, saxophone, acoustic guitar, singing backups. So there's a lot of people on stage, a lot of potential on stage, sound-wise, right? So they come out and there's a synth pad playing, providing this kind of vibe and atmosphere, this lush kind of sound texture. Get a keyboard into your band if you can. What it provides sonically and vibe-wise and in terms of filling out space is so, so valuable. So Adam is playing the guitar chords, subtle, gentle to the beginning of Old Skin, right? And it goes this way, and it's micro of the macro because this band is absolutely world-class expert at building and then releasing tension. This is a band whose whole show is wrapped around moments, man. Again, get moments into your show. Write songs that create and release tension. Old Skin is one of those. Starts very gently. Adam begins to sing. People lose their freaking minds because it sounds incredible with that synth filling in the space and the guitar. You can hear everything. It's loud. Adam's voice is cutting through and it's perfect and it's him. And everybody's like, oh boy, because we know what's coming, all right? We're getting just a shade of the band and it already sounds incredible. But everybody in that room knows the song and we know that there's a release coming. And so they sing the first verse or whatever, and then Charlie starts to hit eighth notes on the ride cymbal. Another keyboard probably kicks in a little bit. Maybe another guitar comes in. They're beginning to up the ante. They're beginning to up the intensity. And we know that they're about to build to something. And we know what it is because we all know the song. And then it builds. And then the band kicks in to this big chorus of Old Skin. Old Skin's like maybe a Petty song or a Springsteen song. The War on Drugs ranges a little bit from kind of Americana into a more art rock, into a more modern rock sound. A lot of electric guitars, a lot of keyboards, but they jump around genre-wise within this big umbrella. And that one's kind of a roots rock song. Acoustic guitar, bass, drums, you know what I mean? But it kicks in with the drums and the harmonies, and the lid just blows off the place. This is a minor build and release before what's coming, all right? But the roof just blows off because the band kicks in and it sounds incredible. And that is partly the venue. That is partly the equipment at the venue. That is partly so many people being on stage and their proficiency and their gear and whoever was doing sound. It's all a big group of people making this happen. But sonically, it was impeccable, man. You just got freaking chills when that released, and everybody felt it. And we're like, well, we're in for something here. You know, it took me about a minute to realize we're into next level stuff, man. The War on Drugs is a band playing at the very highest level. And there's no frills to this. You know, they're wearing t-shirts and jeans, but they come out and what they're delivering texturally, what they are delivering sonically and in terms of vibe is just next level. And when the first chorus of Old Skin kicked in, everybody felt it, man. Everybody felt we're into real serious territory. And then the show just went from there. You know, the second song was Pain. Pain is Still arguably my favorite War on Drugs song. It was certainly the first favorite War on Drugs song. It was the song that got me into the band. And it sounded like the CD, but it sounded better than the CD because it was so much louder than the CD. Bigger, louder than the CD. And they're just playing it. And it's just extraordinary what a band is capable of producing. You know, all of the sounds that you hear on those CDs, they're capable of reproducing live, and it was not on tracks. There were a couple of things that were triggered, and those are sonic textures mostly, or a percussive piece of some sort that they might trigger on a track. But none of the instruments, none of the vocals, nothing was on tracks. They were just producing the sound live, and it was huge, and it sounded so good. And I'm 7 people deep, and I'm watching Dave Hartley play bass, and he's amazing. He's so smooth and so subtle. And I'm watching Charlie play drums, and I'm like, that's the guy, man. I want to be that. You know, I want to do what he's doing. And what he's doing, I've begun to reproduce a lot in my playing. His simple, straightforward, laid back, but super intense approach to playing the music. You know, not a lot of fancy stuff. Deep ass pocket and grooves, and Charlie just digging in, you know? I'm like, that's it, man. That's what I want to be as a player, and I loved it. And I'm just watching him, and the show went on, you know? They played for a couple hours. I got misty a couple of times, all right? I got misty a couple of times, because this is a band, again, that produces emotion. Their songs are evocative. A lot of them are a little bit sad, or a lot sad. But then they explode into these moments, you know, and I had 2 that really got me. One was when they played Strangest Thing. Strangest Thing is another candidate for my favorite War on Drugs song, and it's the same kind of idea, where it starts very subtly, but it starts dark, and there's a vibe, and a darkness, and an emotion. You know, there's something so evocative about just the chords. And they play, and then there's a moment where the electric guitar kicks in with just some chords, just ups the intensity of what's happening. And it kicks in with these chords that, again, dark, emotional, sad, evocative. And there's a certain note within one of those chords. Gets me every time. Now, I have played Strangest Thing with my headphones on, I don't know, 100 times. It's one of the ones I just play for sport. You know, it's one of the ones I just play for the love of it. And it's so intense, and there is so much emotion in it. And again, it's one of these ones that builds. And so I felt a little pang when that first sort of up the intensity guitar chord came in with that sad, lonely note at the top of it. Just feeling that. And then again, the synth pads are playing like this shimmery stuff over top. It's subtle, but it's so full, you know, and it works so well. And I'm feeling it and I'm hearing it. And then there's a build up to it again and a stop. And then a guitar solo just comes in. And Adam Grandiseel is an absolute expert at tone. The tones that he produces are just exquisite, man. They're perfect. Use tones. People, guitar players, figure out tone and use it. You have no idea. You should have, but maybe you don't have any idea how much difference your tone makes to how a song sounds and how an audience reacts. Put the time and effort into learning tones, man, and working with them. Adam comes in on the solo on Strangest Thing, and it just lifts. The whole place just lifts, you know? And when that guitar kicked in on that solo, I just kind of felt misty because I felt the emotion in it. You know, this is not robots playing. There's a thing right now where songs are being written to algorithms. Written to the algorithm of Spotify so that it will pop up on your list, you know? This ain't that. This is real human emotion put into the instruments and delivered. And that solo kicks in on Strangest Thing, and I'm just like playing it in my head, playing the drum parts in my head along with Charlie, remembering being in my basement, headphones on, and just playing the song, working the build-ups, and then just releasing and hitting so hard. I'm not a hard hitter as a drummer, but when I'm playing this song, and I understand when I play it why Charlie Hall digs in so freaking hard, because you have to. You know, I've talked about many times songs that you hear that make you move, and you just have to move when you hear them. You know, you have to dance. You have to move. You have to mosh. Whatever. You got to do something. There are songs as a drummer where your lips just gonna curl. You can't fake this song. You dig into it because the emotion is so raw and so potent, you know? And when that guitar solo kicked in, I got misty again, you know? Just feeling that energy, feeling that power and emotion in the song, in the performance, in the night, in the atmosphere. It was freaking dynamite. I'm going on the record right now as saying, excluding King's X gigs that I've gone to, this is probably the best concert I've ever seen in my life. I'm coming out and saying the War on Drugs at Echo Beach in Toronto is probably the best show I've ever seen. And this is part of it. Their ability to build and release tension and emotion in such a potent way. So Strangest Thing got me. And then the other one that got me was, of course, very late in the show. I think they closed the main set. Second last song on the main set was the title track to the new record, I Don't Live Here Anymore. And I've talked about that song. It was my song of the year for 2021. And when I was in Europe on the last Sarah Smith tour, that song had just come out, and I listened to it on my headphones over and over and over. That keyboard part that runs over the top of it that makes the whole freaking song for me kind of a Boys of Summer vibe. I listened to that song on repeat probably 200 times throughout the course of that tour. And it got me every freaking time, you know? And when I was on that tour, I was still dealing with quite a lot of anxiety that came to me via COVID. And going away, going to Europe for 6 weeks was really, really difficult for me to do existentially, anxiety-wise. I was very frightened to do that. And this song was the soundtrack to those feelings. There was a point where I was sitting in the back seat of the van, just kind of looking out beside to the left of the driver's seat, just looking out the window, watching the highway lines roll by, hearing that song in my headphones. It was like I'm in a music video. I wrote a poem about this. You can find it on my Instagram feed. I'm in a music video right now. The way this music sounds, this evocative melody evokes one of those road videos that you used to see all the time. The singer in the band with his head leaned up against the glass, just watching the highway roll by. We're supposed to feel bad for the band because they're lonely and away from home and working so hard. I was in one of those videos listening to that song in my headphones. And it was the soundtrack to a phase of the anxiety that I dealt with during COVID. And that song is so evocative, and I love it so much. And it was a little bit like when Sarah Harmer played The Lookout, because at the peak of my anxiety, The Lookout was the song I was trying to learn on the drums just to keep my brain and hands occupied, so I didn't flip out. And when she played it at Centennial Hall recently, I was like almost a mess, There was tears, there was it was kind of catharsis, and there was just these memories. I've said before that music is unique in its power to invoke memory. And sometimes those memories are not happy, man. But you look at them and you realize how far you've come. Ultimately. Same thing with I Don't Live Here Anymore. And so they start playing that, and it's toward the end of the show. We've been on this roller coaster of just extraordinary highs and pulling back. One of the things you can do with a keyboard that's vital in these situations is you can fill in space between songs. The War on Drugs did not do a lot of talking. I've mentioned this before, too, when I went to see Bahamas recently. Not a lot of talking. They come out and they play the songs. They let the music do the talking for them. They don't spend a lot of time yammering about stuff. Yes, there was crowd interaction. Yes, there was, hey, how are you doing? Hey, it's great to be back in Toronto. There was a little bit of that stuff, but mostly they let the music talk. And so the song ends, and you lose your mind because you're like, did I just see what I just saw? Did I just hear what I just heard? And then There's a guitar that's got to come on. They got to swap out some stuff. The lights dim. There's some cool light happening. And, a keyboard or two just filling in sonic space. Not a lot of empty air throughout that whole show. Let the keyboard fill in the space just with soundscape, man, just with texture. Not a melody even, just sound. To keep everybody in the zone, to keep everybody in this energy space where the show is happening, And really, really good. Just really potent, Anyways, the song, I Don't Live Here Anymore. Again, I teared up. I teared up at the memory of what that song helped me get through. Music has a unique power to heal, a unique power to evoke memory, a unique companion music is to the best times and the worst times, kids. That song was a companion to me. I still listen to it all the time. And just hearing them play it, hearing it so loud, but the sound so perfect, on a perfect night, in a perfect venue. It just got me. The ultimate buildup, though, always comes with, ironically enough, perhaps not so ironically, the song Under the Pressure. Under the Pressure live is a 10 to 12 minute opus, and it's the ultimate buildup. So they play the song. It's that one of those songs where I've talked about how the war on drugs makes me think of the 80s and U2 because of a particular keyboard sound. Under the Pressure has that keyboard sound, keyboard melody carrying it. And it's like an upper mid-tempo tune, and it goes, and they play, and it's great. And there's a signature kind of percussive sound that comes in at the beginning of that song. Everybody knows it when they hear it, and then they go nuts because they're about to play Under the Pressure, which is one of the traditional old war on drugs songs from like 10 years ago. Still a banger, still a freaking masterpiece. But halfway through that song, everything drops out. And they begin a build that takes like 3 minutes, I think, in the live version of the song. And it just builds slowly, slowly, slowly. Just a guitar, a little bit of keyboard pad, just slowly, quietly building, just playing the same thing over and over and over and over. The same, it's like an ostinato. It's just the same thing, repeating, but stuff gets added to it as they go. Charlie's playing just, again, eighth notes on the hi-hat really quietly. And it's just so vibey and dark and quiet, but everybody knows what's coming. And then as it goes, they keep building. Then you can see that Charlie's hitting a little harder. You can feel the intensity beginning to ramp up. And then by the end, he's just wailing with both hands on the hi-hats. Everybody's in playing this repeating pattern. And then Charlie hits a fill and it just blows up. It just blows up. And then everybody in the crowd is just jumping. You can't not jump. Everybody's just jumping. And again, this band has such an extraordinarily ability to create and then in some cases just explode tension. It was magnificent, man. It was such a high point of the evening, and you knew it was going to be because you've watched live versions of this song before. You know how they do it, and they did it, and the roof, if there was one, would have just blown off. Magnificent. They got done. They finished the set. Thank you very much. Everybody lost their minds. Encore, encore, encore. Out they come. They played 2 songs from A Deeper Understanding. They played Thinking of a Place, and they played In Chains. In Chains is one of my favorite unsung war on drugs songs. I didn't think they ever played In Chains live, but they did. It was the last song. Both of those tunes were like 10-minute jams. Guitar solos, vibe, atmosphere. Freaking great. Freaking great. If you get a chance to see the war on drugs, go see them. Don't sleep on it. Even if you don't know the songs very well, they will blow your freaking mind. My wife, who I've just played some of the music for in the past week or so, because she was coming to the gig with me, as we were walking out, she said to me, "What'd you think?" I said, "I think that might have been the greatest show I ever saw in my life." And she responded, "Me too." She didn't even know the songs. And she's like, "That's the greatest show I ever saw." Freaking Wonderful band. And if you are an aspiring band, go see shows like that. Pick up stuff from them. See a band working at the highest level. How the show integrates. How they use sound. How they use lights. How they use vibes. Begin now preparing a show for the stage you want. I'm thinking of that. I had two thoughts throughout that entire gig. The two thoughts were, one, this is extraordinary, what I'm witnessing right now. And number two was, I want to do that. I have struggled mightily at times, particularly through COVID, even over the past year, with do I keep trying or not? Do I keep performing or not? Has it passed me by? Is it too late? And I watch a show like that and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be on that stage. I want to play that crowd. I want to play music like that. I want to be part of that atmosphere. It's not about being famous. It's not about being a rock star. It's about being a musician, playing music that good and playing it that well for an audience that receptive. I want to be part of something like that, man. I really want to do that. And I don't know really what to say about that. The first thing that comes into your head is, it's not possible. If you're me, the first thought that comes into your head is, it's just not possible for me to do that. But you and me, kids, are not dealing in what's not possible, all right? We need to begin dealing in what is possible. And I don't know how. I don't know how it happens that I wind up on a stage in a circumstance like that, playing that well, music that good. I don't know how that happens. It's not up to me to figure out how that happens. It's up to me to believe in the possibility of it happening and to prepare myself as best I can and leave the rest to the freaking universe to figure out, man, because it happens. It happened for everybody on that stage. Right place, right time, right music. And boom, there you are. That is the inspiration, man. You have to continue believing in possibility. That's been very, very hard for me to do. Extremely difficult. It remains difficult. That voice that says it's impossible is always there. And it's a strong voice because it's a practiced voice. It's been there from the beginning, man. And it ran the show for a very long time. Well, let today be the day that we say the voice of impossibility no longer runs the show. And if you're walking around in your 40s, if you're walking around in your 50s, and you're already buying in to this BS rhetoric about I'm old now, cut it out. All right, stop it right now. 40-somethings, 50-somethings, we're not old at all, man. We're halfway through. There is time, there is opportunity, there is possibility, okay? Getting tired of hearing this. Jokes about being old. Jokes about everything hurts now. Jokes about my back. Stop it. Speak your world into existence, kids. Thoughts become things. We got time. We got opportunity. Our game is to believe in possibility and to prepare ourselves as best we can for it. The war on drugs reminded me of that. Reminded me I want to be on that stage. What is it you want to do that you need reminding about? Think about it, all right? Think about it and set your mind toward the possibility. I had no idea I was going to get this far. I had other stuff I want to talk about. But it was a good week, man. It was a good week, musically speaking. I played a gig with my dear friend Kay Howell outdoors on the shores of Lake Erie. That was fun. And then Kay and I laid down drum tracks the next day for her new single. Great song. I am delighted to play on it and to play with her. And then Saturday night was the annual Barn on the Farm show with Fresh Breath. Love playing in that band with my boy Ken the Zen and Katie and Josh and Brett. Really great band, really lovely people. And this venue they made called Barn on the Farm is just fabulous. So we had 100 of our closest friends packed in and we played what I think was a really good show for them. And then down to see the war on drugs. It was a week of music. It was a week of affirmation. It was a week of seeing possibilities, man. Fresh Breath is dreaming big. They got some plans they're trying to bring into fruition in the States. Kay is working on a new record. I'm going to be lucky enough to play on some of it. The war on drugs Are you kidding me? You know, possibility, man. Start believing in possibility. I need to work hard on that. Maybe you do too, but today's the day to start, man. Think your world into freaking existence, all right? Very quickly, I'm going to do the Patreon plug and I'm going to get out of here because I'm going to meet our old pal Jay and his wife Tash for lunch. I do have a Patreon page for the website. It is patreon.com/JohnHuffPodcast. I have one tier of membership. It is $5 for a month. And that $5 is you saying to me, dude, I appreciate the work you're putting into this show. If you're getting some inspiration from this, some entertainment, some education, if you're encountering new music, feeling yourself inspired because of what I'm doing here, please consider supporting me on the Patreon. You can think of it as flipping me a $1.25 tip for every episode of this show that I do. I certainly appreciate it. If you're not inclined to do that, that's cool. It's A-okay. The show will remain free and accessible wherever you enjoy fine podcasts. But if you can help me out, if you feel inclined to do that, I certainly appreciate it. If not, please share these episodes. Please tell your friends about these episodes. You know, word of mouth is still the most potent and powerful advertising. I can't compete with big money, big name celebrity podcasts in the marketing area. But, you know, go tell somebody. That's all I ask of you. You can find me on Instagram at JW_Huff. You can find me on Facebook at The John Huff Podcast. You can find me on TikTok at The John Huff Podcast. Drop me a line. Let me know what you're listening to. Tell me what it is, man, that you need to believe is possible. You know, if you need a pick-me-up, let me know, and I will pick you up, man. I pick you up, you pick me up. Right now, I'm going to split. I'm going to probably go listen to some War on Drugs, and if you get a chance to see him, go do it, man. Thank you so much for coming this far. Thank you for listening. It's all possible, kids. Good things happen when you put yourself out there, and hey, I'll check you later. Yeah.
Let's go to the XO, baby. Let's go to the XO, baby. Let's go to the XO, baby.
Nobody ever wins the freaking ring toss.